We are thrilled to have, for the first of hopefully many times, the 21st head coach of our LaSalle Explorers, Darris Nichols. Welcome. We welcome you, Coach, your family. We couldn't be more happy to have you into our Explorers Den.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Coach, after some impressive testimonials that were out during your press release, you're described as being an old school coach, but a new age leader. Tell us a little bit about your background as both a player and a coach.
Just as a player, I had the privilege to play for a lot of really good coaches, and the first ones being my high school coach, head coach Rick Cormany, who's one of the all-time winningest coaches in Virginia history, who just recently retired 2 years ago. And so my dad was on his staff for 30 years. So I grew up in a basketball family. Like my dad was, he's an All-American at Berea College, which is an NAIA school in Kentucky. So he just always had me and my brother around the game. And I'll never forget Rick Cormany. And he's the one that held us accountable. And through the game of basketball, I'll never forget in the summertime, he used to call us like 7 a.m. every morning. And if we picked up, he would say, while you guys are laying in bed, somebody else is working. And I'm like, after a few days, okay, we picked the phone up, because we're home alone. And then me and my brother got kind of hit to what time he was calling. And we say, hey, this Coach Corby did not pick that phone up because he's going to know we ain't working. So, he just guilted us into working really hard. I saw it from my dad. I saw it from my older brother. Just the work ethic that takes to, be a really good player. And then, transitioning from right after high school, I go to West Virginia University where I played for John Beeline for 3 years. And then John Beeline leaves and goes to Michigan. And then, Bob Huggins comes in my senior year. And so just the experience playing for really good coaches and the common theme between all of those coaches is just the accountability piece. And I think now it's different than when I played. When you guys played, it was probably, okay, I'm going to do this because the coach said so. And then there was no questions asked. Okay, coach said to do it, I'm going to do it. Can't run home to mom and dad and complain, well, the coach has me doing this. It's different now. It's really different. So you got to be creative in how you teach. And that's something that I've, learned over the years of being a coach, assistant coach, being a head coach. And then you start saying old sayings like these kids are different. You start saying things like that, and you realize, okay, I'm getting old.
Yeah, well, one of the things I would add to that is one of the things that I picked up when I watch games today is I love the fact that the young kids today they play so free. I felt like we were more had the coach's thumb on us as we played. We I don't won't say overcoached, but we did
Very
what the coach
structured.
very structured. And these kids today, I just can't imagine playing with the type of freedom that they play with. I love that part of the game.
I think part of that too is the differences in rules. I think when you have a shot clock and then the shot clock, when I started off playing, the shot clock was at 35, now it's at 30. So part of that is a coach too. I think part of that is the rules and different changes to the game.
Yeah.
Coach, as a player, let's talk about this a little bit. I got some inside intel today from a great source that one of your best games was in the second round against Wake Forest in OT, where you had a high level block. Tell us about your toughness playing in the Big East as a player, and now as a coach. How have you taken that to your approach now?
I mean, just the experiences. I mean, you think about the Big East and the time when, the early 2000s, we had some of the teams that are in the ACC now that were in the Big East. And so you had those rivalries every night. Conference realignments obviously changed the Big East, but, those were battles every night. And then, I said it yesterday in the press conferences. It seemed like every night you was running into some tough dudes from Philly, New Jersey, this area of the country. And it's like, that was to me that was real basketball. Sometimes the score was 59-60, but it was physical, and I really liked the battles. Um, every night in the Big East. But I remember that game, that Wake Forest game that you're talking about, because I was a freshman. I was a freshman. I played quite a bit as a freshman, but you got to think, I'm from small town Radford, where the highest level of basketball, a chance to go to the Elite Eight, and so our starting point guard, I think that game went to three overtimes, yeah, maybe three. Um, our starting point guard started piling up fouls, and I'm like, okay, I'm sitting over there, I'm stiff. I see how fast Chris Paul's coming down the floor, coming down, so, when you sit on the bench, I tell my guys, man, I know I've sat on the bench, I've done it all. When you sit on the bench and you're trying to get loose without showing people you're getting loose, because then if you're getting loose and the coach don't put you in, it's kind of embarrassing. So I'm over there stretching a little bit. So JD Collins ends up fouling out. He's our starting point guard, and then I'm going Chris Paul, and he's All American, and he's coming down the floor 1,000 miles per hour, and then he ends up fouling out. So I'm like, okay, that's a relief right there. But I was ready to make big plays in that game, and I'll never forget this story. And this is kind of my dad holding me accountable. And John Beeline will tell you the story if you talk to him. So after the game, we went to the big game. We're going to the Elite Eight. We went triple overtime. So he passes my dad, like on the way to the loading dock or whatever, where the fans come out and greet you. And as soon as John Beeline sees my dad, he goes, and I wanted to get Darris in there more. He's thinking what some parents do. They usually tackle about playing time. And my dad said, cut him off. He said, "Coach, you ain't got to explain yourself to me. Tell him make his free throws." Because I think I went like 2 for 4 in the game from the free throw line or something like that. And so that's he always shares that story. But that's why our teams are so good, because our parents and the people around us held us accountable, and we held each other accountable.
In the press conference regarding coaching style, you talked about coaching the next play. How quickly can you move on? You coached a response to a mistake harder than a mistake. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I think it helps guys play freer. Sometimes, and especially in the portal, you may get a kid, especially when I was at Radford, I would get guys from, Villanova, Stanford, high level programs, and they didn't have as much opportunity to play. So when I get them, it's kind of like deprogramming them. And I've had to take out guys for looking over to the sideline when they make a mistake. And it's just trying to teach them to play freer. And so I always share this story. I say, okay, this is what you need to tell, your family when you're watching our game. So if you shoot a shot, you airball a shot, and then you jog back down the floor on defense, I've probably seen you airball a shot more than that one time. And when I take you out, it's to take you out because you didn't jog back. Obviously, we teach them what's a good shot, what's not a good shot. So we're way ahead of that. So then if I take you out because you jog back on defense, you come over to the bench and you're pouting because you got taken out. Then I hear one of my assistants say, this is from experience. I hear one of my assistants say, don't put him back in the game. He's down here pouting. I look down there and you're pouting. You got bad body language. You're never going back in the game. And then what happens after the game? We win or lose the game, and then they go right to their phone, and then somebody says, I can't believe coach took you out for airballing that shot. Like, no, I didn't take you out for airballing that shot. I see you airball that shot every single day in practice. I knew you were going to airball that shot. I took you out for jogging back on the defense, and I didn't put you back in because you came over here and pouted because your next play speed isn't good enough for us to win.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm looking forward to coming up to watching you guys practice. And last year, I took my 11-year-old grandson up to watch practice, and I took him up there for a reason, because I wanted him to see Coach Dunphy at times getting into the players, because it's okay to get yelled at. Like that's part of the game. And at 11 years old, I don't want him pouting. He just needs to know that that's all part of it. And I'd love to bring him up and watch you guys practice as well.
You're welcome anytime. I think sometimes, and you got to think about like the differences. Like think about the differences of society when you played, when I played, when they played. So I feel like this generation is easily embarrassed more than we were. So when you're coaching them among their peers and this confrontation and conflict among each other, the defense mechanism is, oh, you're embarrassing me. So sometimes in practice, I may be counterproductive and say, okay, every time I critique or criticize, I'm not going to do it loud. I'm going to walk over to the person and stop practice. So it doesn't. So everybody doesn't. The other players don't see what's going on, and then they understand. They understand what I'm doing. I'm like, hey, if we don't verbalize or address issues and trying to correct as a team, we're gonna be in here practicing for 4 hours. And I know y'all don't want to be in here practicing for 4 hours because I think about it like if I'm walking across campus when we went to school and I trip and fall, the people that saw me fall are the people that I can say, oh, that's embarrassing. I fell outside of I was walking across true parking lot and I fell. Nowadays, if you fall, people can post it on social media. The whole world can see it. Now you're embarrassed. So I just think it's just understanding we're coaching in a different time, not just basketball, but society. So you got to understand how to attack, what they're going through.
You've had a little time now. You've been up on campus now for what, maybe a week?
Yeah, about a week. Yeah, about a week.
So when you look at LaSalle and you look at they've had 3 college basketball player of the years: Tom Gola, Michael Brooks, and Lionel Simmons. When you look at that university, what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts of it is like you think about the players of the year and the time when it was, and it was like, back during those times, it was like recruiting was way more locally. And it was like, you can get really good players just because people want to be able to see them play every night. Now we have streaming this, streaming that. And so now, like, everybody's going all over the place. So you think about it, the reason why you had those 3 players is because this is still a hotbed for recruiting. So I look at it that way.
Yeah. Braun and I have been part of 5 between the two of us. We never played together. I left and he came in. I played 2 years with Lionel Simmons, 4 with Tim Legler, 1 with Doug Overton, and then he played with those guys as well. There was some NCAA appearances, NIT appearances. I think 5 straight appearances in postseason tournaments. It can be done at LaSalle, but it's obviously it's a difficult task. We know that. But what's your thoughts, and how do you plan to elevate the program to that type of level?
Yeah, I think the biggest plan is like getting the right guys, and I think it's hard to, like, you think about it, like a lot of the coaches who, okay, this is this system, this is this system. You don't hear about systems as much anymore. Obviously with Tony Bennett, like you knew the system, like um, Jim Boeheim, you knew the system, but now it's just like, okay, I got to be adaptable and flexible and try to recruit the best talent I can and hold them extremely accountable because you may have to play different years.
Right.
You might have to do that. And I think we're doing that, and I really feel like at LaSalle, it's the type of place where you have to out tough people. I look at it like you think about the area we're in. That's tough area, gritty, tough area. But I want it to feel like, okay, you come outside and you go inside, it's still better be tough. And that's the type of attitude, that's the type of guys we have to recruit to be successful. Because I think a lot of times when you hear these crazy numbers of players getting paid in the portal, you're paying for skill. Like these guys that are getting paid millions of dollars, $1 million, $900,000. You're paying for their skill. We've switched our evaluation. We're paying for toughness and trying to develop, more skill. Not to say they're not skilled, but trying to develop more skill. And I think that's what we've had success with at Bradford. And I think you can have success here with getting a higher level type of player.
You talk about changing a culture. How difficult is it to change a culture? And then how difficult is it with the portal where you might have different team every year?
Yeah. I don't worry about having a different team every year. I don't worry about losing players. Um, I think when you worry about, okay, the players you lose, I think it starts to drive you crazy. Like I'm more focused on evaluating the right guys, because there's plenty of times, like, when I was at Radford, a lot of higher level programs came and got our guys, but it's because we had good players. Um, so just building that culture, I think the culture is us. Like we set it, and when you can't just create it, you have to recruit it, and that's what I say in terms of the evaluation.
Coach, you talked about family. Don't preach it, feel it. You just sort of alluded to that, and we talked about your philosophy as a culture. Tell our fans a little bit about your X and O philosophy, the finish at the rim, and everything you talked about. Richie just asked you about that toughness, and the one thing Dr. Allen, who we both love, huge basketball fan, 2 or 3 times in the press conference, he used the word dudes. That's not
Yeah,
players, it's not shooters. Dudes
dudes.
means
Yeah,
dudes, players. Richie and I were texting each other right away. We're like, we want to see some dudes out there too, man. What does that
oh,
mean
yeah,
for us?
yeah. For me, I think the Ken Palm numbers for us this year, the last 3 years, I think we were 50th in the country in offense rebounding. Um, like, we got to create extra possessions. How do you do that? You get on offensive glass, you force turnovers. Um, so, our goal is to be top 50 in the country on offensive glass every year. And what does that do when you get an offensive rebound? It usually draws fouls. And so, we just break it down with our guys before the season starts. And we say, what is the highest percentage shot in basketball? And most of them say a layup. And I say, it's not a layup, it's a free throw. What is the second one? It's a rim shot. What is third? It's a paint rim. It's a paint shot. Fourth, corner three. So we break it down statistically, and we tell them, okay, this is what we're trying to do. So our goal every game is to get in the bonus early in each half. Then after that, we try to create double gaps, get downhill, drive, get to the free throw line, because you always gonna have scoring droughts. You always gonna have scoring droughts. You see every game. You see a team hasn't scored in the last 3 minutes, 45 seconds. But for us, if you're in the bonus early, you're going to have an opportunity to score, because the highest percentage shot is a free throw. So that's kind of where we developed the finish at the rim, kind of culture, kind of mindset. And then we love to post guards. I think a lot of people post bigs will post guards as well, because guards aren't used to defending in the post. And then that's where you can draw a lot of your fouls. And then defensively, like my whole philosophy is like, grind you out on offense, and then defensively grind you out on defense. Like, we're gonna change defense. We're gonna pick up 94 feet. I kind of it's like, the team that makes you guard pin downs, flares, dribble handoffs, makes you guard all that action. But then defensively, now they're picking up full court, and they're taking away your best ball handler and making somebody else initiate offense. So my whole philosophy is like, let's just be annoying.
Yeah, it's like guard people the way you hate to be guarded.
Yeah, just be who you hate.
So Darris, tell us a little bit about what does Darris Nichols do when he's not coaching basketball? What does he do to relax? What are the things he enjoys outside of basketball?
I love listening to music. I love walking. I love being outdoors and just walking. Like, if I have a challenge with myself. Like, I'll when I make recruiting calls, I never sit down. I always walk. So then if I don't get a workout in, then at least I've walked, you know, 8 miles that day. So I love to walk. I like to read, audiobooks, reading. Yeah, I don't really, to be honest, I don't really have it. There you go.
Which one?
I don't
Even
really,
though even though we don't
I
like
don't,
the Hawks, you got to read this.
yeah, yeah. I really don't do anything, that much outside of basketball. I love, finding new restaurants. So if y'all have some recommendations, throw them out,
Well,
because I know
listen,
Philly's got a lot of them.
I would tell you I'm a big jazz music fan, and
I love live music.
we have a great jazz club. I'm committing to right now. You and your wife. We're going to go with my wife, and we're going to go to. And Bron, you're invited with your wife. We're going to go to this jazz club called South Jazz Restaurant on Broad Street. It's a great place. Great talent comes in there. Professional musicians, and it's a hoot.
Yeah, I love live music. So that's
Richie,
pretty much it. I mean, I'm
Richie,
a basketball junkie.
Yeah, me. Well, Bron and I are too.
I can tell.
Richie, any other questions for Coach?
No, I'm good. He answered everything I had down at Bron.
Again, Coach, yesterday you said it first thing in the press conference. You set the tone, which we both loved. I'm not going to be here long because the portal opened at 8:00 and I got work to do, and I love that all business mentality. So best of luck to you and your staff, your family moving to Philly. We both look forward to meeting you soon.
I appreciate it. Hey, y'all are welcome. Come to practice, workouts anytime. Just reach out to us. The door's always open.
I appreciate that. Looking forward to meeting you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
All right, take care.
All right, we'll see you.
Take care.